Hi, Shani.
What's popping?
Nothing much. Long days. How are you?
I'm good. I've been enjoying the weather. It's a little bit cooler today, thank God.
This is good weather. This is good.
Welcome to the persons who are joining our Mentorship Monday. We are happy to have you. We have today our prosecutor mind, Hodine Williams, and he'll share a little bit about his journey to his career so that we can get into the other sections of our talk today. So go ahead and share with us how you got schools and everything.
Where should I start? I did not want to become an attorney. That was not on my radar at all. So growing up, I wanted to be an engineer. And then, yes, I wanted to be an engineer. I was good at making stuff. Used to make toys with robotics and carve stuff out, put them together, dismantle electronics and all of that. I was very, very good at that. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to invent machinery. Fast forward to probably late in my teens, I did the sciences. So I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be a medical doctor. And I did the sciences up to A levels. I actually went to pre-U. I did some pre-med courses and stuff. And but apart from the sciences, I did business. I did management, POB accounts, math, all of that. So it was numbers and the sciences. A levels, I did economics, management, statistics. All the business and number subjects, and I completed a first degree in economics and management at UA. After that, I went to work. I was still working in banking then. I worked for about 4 years in a commercial bank. I did the whole rounds. So I was still in that. I was head of finance for another company, and whilst doing that when I was doing my management studies, I did one law course and I really enjoyed it. And Shirley and Eaton actually said, you do that law. Like, no, that's too much reading and stuff. So I dropped literature. First opportunity I got, that was in grade 9 or so, and I never picked it up back. But I always read because I believe literature was a walk in the park. That's not something you should study. So somebody should study, English you don't study, literature you don't study, because it come naturally, So I studied the sciences and numbers. So whilst working at Scotiabank now, it was a difficult period to working as a young person with a degree. It got very frustrating. So one day, I was very outspoken still in those times. So one day I really had a rough day. And I went up to UTech at the time, and they had started their law course, law studies for a while. And I just walked up there and said, look, I need to do this course. I could start Monday. Today is Friday. It doesn't cost you any more to add one more person to the course. I pay cash because I'd save up so much. So I pay cash in a way, cost anymore. So just let me in. And that was it. I was going to school the following Monday. So I just wanted to do a degree. While studying now, I got involved in student politics. So, it kind of just dropped in your lap. I got to like law. I did well at it whilst doing that. So after I finished that degree, everybody was going to law school. And I said, all right, let me just do it since all my friends doing it. And all throughout school, first degree econ management, going to law school, and going to law faculty, all of that I did full-time whilst working full-time. So by the time I started studying law, I'd gone abroad for 2 years, and I came back. And I came back to a job here. So I was actually the assistant to the auditor general. So I was an auditor and an accountant elsewhere. And when I finished my legal studies now, you know, the add on more to your work to say, all right, legal matters this, everybody wants an opinion, to have a meeting, you have to pray or talk or something like that. So that was interesting. And one day I got tired and I resigned and I applied for a job at the Ministry of National Security. So I was legal counsel at the Ministry of National Security. And that exposed me to a lot of immigration matters, you know, international contracts, international agreements, all these exciting stuff. Police beat up people and they sue the state, human rights, all those lovely, exciting things, and dealing with those issues, and they come fast at you, and everybody wants a decision now. You know, you're buying ships and helicopters and planes for the JDF and police vehicles and all the contracts and stuff. So that was really, really good experience, and you got thrown in the deep end. So I had a better appreciation for law and fine-tuning your reasoning and so forth. Then a lot of my other friends were defense counsel. I said, boy, I can't go out there and defend criminals. So I had friends that worked at the DPP's office. I said, oh, I think I could try that, being crown counsel, being a prosecutor. So I applied, did the interview. The natural progression is that you're supposed to be a clerk of courts, as in working in what people used to refer to as a resident magistrate's court. At the time, they are now called parish courts. So the natural progression is for you to do that for 3 years, and then you'd be considered if you apply to go to the office. So I just applied directly because I never had no courtroom experience like them. I applied. Miss Lowlin, the director, always tell you that I used to come down there with treats, you know, but that's not true. She lied. So I used to bake, but I had friends there. So banana bread and all, and bread pudding. I make a really good bread pudding. So I used to carry it and give my friends. So everybody in the office would get it. So I was bribing them to work. You know, I had friends. I carry sweet treats for my friends. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, interview. And about a year after I applied, they called me up. I think this time I was on vacation. They called me up and said, hey, I want to offer you the job and so forth. And I said, okay, you know, no second guessing. And I went. Before that, because I didn't have the experience, I taken vacation from national security. And then I went there on a kind of internship type thing. So I said to Miss Lynn, here, when come and when work, and you don't have to pay me. I just want some of the experience. And she said, okay. And she gave me what you call a fiat, which is basically an authorization for an attorney to be associated with the office or to be associated with the prosecution. So that's basically like an authorization for you to operate as they do. So I got one of that, and I remember I went with a deputy director at the time to court. So this is me without no criminal courtroom experience. So I went to court with her one day, came back over, and Paula Vanessa Lulin said to me, Mrs. Wait, what is he doing tomorrow? He will open. So I said, no, I mean, now come, I work so early, I'm not here like no morning. Me now come here till after 8, because open, no, I don't have keys for the office. So you mean open? I should say, no, you will deliver the opening address in the case tomorrow. I'm like, what do you mean? Me. So I went to court the next day. No, I went home first and I read over the file and looked back on my law school notes because I've never opened before. I learned about it in advocacy and so forth. Never did it. This is a real deal, you know. Curtains drawn. So I said, boy, all right. Put on my robe and stuff. And my senior at the time, she announced the matter. This is the matter of Simone Fowling. I can't even forget the case. Simone Fowling, indicted for the offence of wounding with intent. I said, wow. And she sits down, and I'm there looking at her, and she looking at me, and she nudged me like, it's your time. So I sit down, my voice tremble, as a brother said, the voice tremble. I said, Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. And for about a good 15 to about 20 seconds, the voice a crack and everything else, and I just forgot about it. And I became a whole different person. It's like I step into a new me. So I was there interacting with the jury, and I open out, rotted. I said, yo, this is it. That's when I knew that I wanted to be a prosecutor and I could do this for some more time. So that is the journey. And between that, I mean, I worked in banking, was an accountant. When I was in New York, I was a taxi driver. I drive taxi in foreign. I was a chef. I worked at an engineering firm. I managed a hotel. What else did I do? I worked at National Security, and now I'm working at the DPP's office. So I've done the rounds. And all throughout school, I've always done school full time, and I've always worked full time. So there were times I didn't go school for months because I had to be working or traveling. Because when I was elsewhere, I used to travel a lot too. So I had to travel, and I had to be working full time, and all my jobs were very demanding. So that's it pretty much.
That's definitely a journey. I have so many questions. So let's just, before I get into all of my questions, the Chinaman says, what focus or what drove you to that field? So what was it essentially that brought you to say, hey, I want to be a prosecutor?
Apart from being exposed to it, I'm really, really against people who commit vicious crimes. When I was in college doing my first degree, that's a management and econ degree, my best friend growing up, he was murdered. And in that same year too, I lost a cousin that was very, very close to me via violence as well. He was kidnapped and killed. Both of them pretty much the same way. As a matter of fact, my cousin's body still has not been found. And I thought, this was a really good person. He was going places, and he was a victim of crime. So too was my best friend growing up. So that's why I was apprehensive about really protecting criminals or defending them. So I wanted to be on the other side so that persons could get justice.
Okay. So sorry to hear about your cousin and your friend, but most persons would have probably said, okay, being around these cases would probably remind me of that trauma. So I'm happy that you were able to utilize that for something greater. Did you have mentors along this journey that you just shared with us?
Sad to say, no. I didn't have one mentor growing up. I didn't have access to people like that. So no, there wasn't anybody to guide me along that career path. I was reflecting with some of my friends and said, yo, even during law school, I never had anybody who I could go to with any of my assignments who said, give me a second look at this and whatnot. And I didn't have the time either, because when I did assignments or exams, it was one hit or go. Because I think faculty exams and law school exams usually about 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Wow.
And, I didn't get time off from work, so I used to go and sit and do an exam in an hour. In my lunchtime, I stagger to say, all right, if I have a 3 o'clock exam, then I'll take lunch at 3. So I leave a little bit before, reach up by school, do that 3.5 hour exam in an hour, so I could leave. So I didn't have anybody to guide me. It was really, really trial and error. And sometimes I get it wrong, but I think it forces you to be independent, have independent thought, and just accept that you are going to just have to work more efficiently than most other persons. But I did have good people though to support me, not so much to guide me in the area, because I had friends that would stay up with me. My good friend Michael, throughout my legal studies, I dragged Michael like 11 o'clock in the night and said, come, we're going up your way, and you should quiz me on this. So he would stay there until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and help me to study, because that's how I study. Like, I can't sit and just mull over a book. If I know something already or I've read it, I don't want to read it again. So you test my memory or my understanding of it. So I used to do these things called beat sheets. And even though I think they're in circulation at law school, so I'll summarize or put little pointers and so forth. And that's what you quiz me on. So that's how I studied, because I had to find a more efficient way of studying, because I didn't have all the 9-10 hours in a day. It's like everybody else, my 9-10 hours would be working. And so it's after that I write my own notes and study and so forth.
I can't imagine that working full time and going to school full time. Like, I did it for a little bit, but I was so exhausted. How did you balance, like, just full time work, full time school, having a social or family life as well? So what was that like for you?
It was interesting. It was difficult. I'm not going to say it wasn't, because that will mean that out of that 24-hour day period, I would have to split it up. So I can't renege on work or shortchange work. So while I have to give my 9-8 hours at work plus carry home work in all of those jobs that I work, I had to now think about the classes that I've missed. And I almost got kicked out of law school too, because they used to have a register you have to sign for 80% of your classes. And I said this, there are some courses I did at law school, I'd never been to a lecture or a tutorial. Never. And I do it, I said, yo, lecture name for this course. So there are some that I've never been, and I got into trouble one time. They had written me at law school to say that I've missed, I think, 80% of my classes, and they were considering throwing me out of the program. And Professor Bassiani at the time had requested to meet with me to find out what's happening. I said, boy, Professor, this is the situation. I have to work in order to pay for school. If I don't work, I can't pay for school, so I can't come to school. And right now, my job is taking up a lot of my time. If I fail school, that's on me. So I don't think I will fail, but I don't have the hours to devote to school right now like everybody else. But I am doing my work, I'm doing my assignments. So that was in first year. And praise God, I made it into second year. And so as time go by, you get a good understanding of how to balance, how to cope. Full-time work, that's very demanding on one hand, and then full-time school, that is also very demanding on the other hand. So I'd go work early. If I have exams, I stagger it, whether it's a 9 a.m. exam, a 11 o'clock exam, a 3 o'clock exam, 6 o'clock exam. That's the 1 hour for my 3.5 hour exam.
Wow.
So sometimes you just have to make sure that you do, probably you're supposed to answer 4 questions. In that 1 hour, I can only do 2 and probably touch on the other 2 little points or so forth for those, because that was my reality. That was my reality, and one would certainly affect the other. So I had to get that balance there. One morning, I came home from school, and I reached home 3 a.m. from school, and my eyes were burning, and I opened the car door and put one foot outside, and I rest my head, and it's my mother that came and wake me up.
Wow.
I was mad tired. So that's what I had to do. I had to learn how to study on my own, do my own notes, and my friends, for the most part, they were supportive. If I was at work and can't turn in an assignment, I have to email it to them, they print and bound and deliver it and collect your receipt and so forth. So having good friends, that was a good part. Having good friends to help you study too, that was another good part for me. So it kind of worked out then, and I made it through. That's the best thing,
Right. So one of our viewers, Camilla Das, I can't pronounce it. Sorry if I butchered it. She said that's quite an interesting journey to becoming a prosecutor, which is about ensuring people are punished for committing horrific crimes. How do you separate your emotional feelings to this?
All right. Most people believe that being a prosecutor is about punishing people. That is not the case. It's about seeking justice. As a prosecutor, you will have to make the decision that is most just. So if something is unfair, we don't do it. If we have evidence or statements or materials that would exonerate somebody, we don't proceed with it. If defense counsel is doing something incorrect, we'll assist them. If evidence comes to us that the person is innocent even during the trial, we will stop the trial. So when we assess a file, we read it objectively. You know, you have to be what we call dispassionate. So you have to look, this might be an innocent person, or this person might be lying if it's an issue, if it's a case that concerns credibility. So for instance, somebody is saying they got raped. Somebody can lie on person. So you have to always do that balancing act and to be fair to everybody. So society needs to be protected as well as persons, accused and victims as well. So it's not about winning, it's ensuring that justice is done and also seen to be done. But you do have the very gory matters that arise, and like, whoa, a human being could do this, and your own personal view won't change anything, you know. A lot of times you have to tell persons, I have no interest in this. I have a duty to perform, and it's to put up this case and do my very best. And once you have done your best, regardless of whatever feelings I might have towards an accuser about a case, because I am human, can read a matter and say, boy, this is terrible, and this man should go to prison and rock for life. There are those cases. There are those cases where you see video footage or whatever of persons doing stuff, and you think, oh, this is the epitome of evil. So this person should rot, you know? And you do feel affected somehow, especially when somebody gets off on a technicality and you know that you have really tried, and you see how much those activities have affected persons and how they have destroyed families. I was in St. Mary's Circuit once, and there was this, I believe, this baby that was raped by her uncle, and she was about 3 years old when he raped her, and she ended up getting an STI, and so much so that by this time that we wanted to try the matter, she was about 6 years old, and she had a vaginal discharge, and it was greenish, and her siblings didn't want to eat from the same plates and use the same utensils, and it had a stench. And because of her age, she couldn't get the medication that would usually treat adults. So we had to be referring her to a pediatric gynecologist to see how best to treat with that, because she ended up getting an infection. So when we tried the matter now, he ended up pleading. And whilst we're doing it, I mean, court reporter, the persons that take the verbatim notes in court, them a ball, judge eye full of water, me look across and my colleague fear eye full of water. He the one is don't blink. The eye, you know, the eye they get kind of water, but the tears never come. But the whole courtroom, police a ball, the accused himself a ball, for him lawyer a ball, because it was emotionally filled. You know, we're human beings, and when you see that kind of stuff, you wonder why, but they happen. So you do have the emotional days. For me, the most significant part of it is when somebody comes to you and say, you know what, thank you, I can now bury this, or I have closure. You know, that's what I consider, or that would be the reward for me, when somebody can say, yeah, thank you, I got to say my piece, or I'm now able to bury my son. Not so much put him in the grave, but in my mind, I know have this man is behind bars. You know, and persons come and they tell you how it has affected them or how they're healing since. that's the best feeling for me to say, all right, I assisted in you getting closure.
That was one of my questions. So I really hope that not gonna butcher the name again. That's a really good answer from that. Another question that we have is, what's one way that you see technology impacting your role as a prosecutor as the time progresses? From C. Joe, not pronouncing that one again.
Okay. Technology, there's always a place for it. I'm big on technology. We operate in a field that is very traditional and very old. And I always complain about it. I don't like paper. I'm probably the only attorney, and my colleagues will tell me, I don't like paper. I say, scan and email it to me. I wish I could have my case on my computer. A lot of times I scan them or type them out and have them on my computer. I'm one of those, you know, if you go court, you literally see attorneys writing everything with pen and paper. As a witness is giving evidence, they're there writing verbatim what they're saying, and sometimes you have to say pause and slow down and all of this. So it affects the time or the length of time that we use to conduct a trial. That's one of my biggest criticisms. I don't know why the court reporters' notes cannot be integrated somehow with your computer, and I can just be there reading and highlighting and going fast. I type and I type very fast, but we could utilize more technology. We are progressing as a nation because we have Evidence Special Measures Act that will allow certain victims or certain witnesses to give evidence via video link and otherwise. So even vulnerable witnesses like children and so forth, if they have gone through or been a victim of a crime, it might be a repeat of that crime for them to even see the accused or be in the same space. My colleague has told me about a case she was trying, and as soon as the little girl walked into court and saw the accused, she wet herself and started shaking. She could not proceed to give the evidence. But we have technology now, and there's legislation that allows us to have like a Zoom link or a live feed into court, and we have utilized that. I've been in matters where nobody knows the location of the accused when he's given evidence. So his image is projected on TV screens in court, and he's there and he gives his evidence. If he needs to look at something, there is a document viewer that you put it under there and he can see it. Everybody in the court can see it. The accused can see it. The defense counsel can see the judges. So there are silver screens put up in court, so they don't actually do that. Technology is there that the vulnerable witness could be at the remote location or even be in court, and there are screens put up so she doesn't have to look at the accused even, apart from her identifying for one time. So you do give them an orientation to say, look, this is how the court is. So the judge is going to sit up there. The accused man is going to be wherever, whatnot. The lawyer is going to be in here too. So we just require that screen to come down for one purpose. So you to identify the man, and then it goes back up and so forth. So there is technology, and we are progressing. But the change is coming, and the good thing is we're walking that path already. For me, I wish it could be quicker, and everybody who is at the table, defense counsel, the judges, prosecution too, the persons who interact with court, they can be more open, because a lot of it is voluntarily or driven by voluntariness. So if the defense counsel would take some things via email and not necessarily paper, or they can agree or utilize technology more, that is good. And if we could meet them there too, we'll have more efficiency in the court system. But we are progressing.
Okay. Well, changes like that, especially in our judicial system, is going to take time. So I definitely understand that it's slow, but it's definitely progressing, as you said. All right. So there is another question, or a two-part question from the Rutherford. The questions are, what career opportunities are available to attorneys after serving as prosecutors, part one, and is the role viewed as critically as it is in the US, part two?
It goes without saying, I answer the last part first. It is critical, and critical all over, wherever you have a prosecuting office. Because without prosecutors, you can't have court, because you need somebody to prosecute the matters. As it pertains to the US. What you see on TV is not necessarily what happens in court. But here it is, because we're ministers of justice. As I said, the aim is not to win at all costs. The aim is to ensure that justice is done. So the fact of the matter is, you can't have court without us. You have to have somebody marshalling evidence so that accused persons could face justice. Not necessarily to go to prison, face justice. In the US now, what you see on TV is probably the best account of what the justice system is like elsewhere. With Jamaica, it is no different as to the importance of prosecutors. Career opportunities outside of, or when somebody chooses to end their stint being a prosecutor, certainly you can go on the bench. A large percentage of the judges in Jamaica were once prosecutors, mostly too because of the wealth of knowledge that you would have as an attorney, as a prosecuting attorney, because you have to appreciate that you have to be ahead of the game. So you have to know everything about everything. You have to know your file. You have to be an authority on the law. So you have to prepare more than the ordinary, because when you have a matter before the court, it is you that have to prove the crime against the person. A matter of fact, the accused person does not have to say a word. You can just sit there and say, all right. So it's up to the prosecutor now to prove the elements of the offense and the crime against that person. So you have to know everything about the law. You have to know everything about the file. You have to know about the witness and all. So and then the training regimen, most of my weekends are spent in training, knowing about different legislation, different rulings, different laws, and so forth, so that you can be ahead of the game. Because the standard that the judges hold for you is different for defense counsel. The persons who get the most bashing in court is the prosecutor. You get blamed for everything. That's the fact of it. And you're expected to operate at this high standard. So when you're done, you have that wealth of knowledge. You cut through stuff like hot knife through butter when it comes to the knowledge. So you can basically go anywhere else. A lot of good defense attorneys were once prosecutors. And so when they go out there and choose to defend criminals, they're really good at what they do. Lots of them go to become judges, as I said before. They work for private entities too, because the wealth of knowledge, again, they can go elsewhere and be judges. They can work in corporate. They can be consultants. I mean, the rest is history. What they can do is so expansive. And prosecutors, generally, I can speak for my colleagues, they are some of the most qualified and brightest persons I know. So the world is your oyster after you have been a prosecutor.
All right, I love that answer. There's another one from Tony Don 876. The question is, in terms of investigative research for crimes, how involved are prosecutors in solving cases?
Solving cases. I don't readily like that. The solving cases, because let me explain it. The prosecution is the state, the government. So it's a prosecutor, the police, passport, immigration, detention facilities, everybody, all the state entities who make up the prosecution. So you have the prosecutor, which are the attorneys that are prosecutors, and you have the police. The good thing is you have a symbiotic relationship, as you can imagine. So the police are the ones that would go out there and investigate crime. Somebody call, hey, I live next door to whoever, and I just say, my neighbor shoot his wife in the head. So call the police. Police come, take statements, they take pictures of the scene, they go around and investigate. Whilst they're doing the investigation, no. If they come up on a legal issue or something that they're not too clear on, because we're the ones that are going to have to take that file and go to court and try to prove a case against a husband that has just now shot his wife. So if they have an issue, they usually call. They send a file to us so that we can review it to say, all right, yes, a murder. But who is to say that John Brown, that is on the ground, or no, it would be Mary Brown, that is on the ground, is the same Mary Brown that her sister had identified, or this same Mary Brown that's on the post-mortem examination report. Because somebody will say, is Mary Brown dead? Who is to say that Mary Brown dead on the scene is the same one that the post-mortem was done on. Sometimes you read a file and probably seem pretty rudimentary, but it's a fact. It could be somebody else, there could have been a mistake, whatnot. So you would have to say, hey, get a post-mortem examination report that says Mary Brown, get a statement from fast neighbor who live next door, was a Mary Brown dead, and she did see Mary Brown dead body on the ground, but you have no link between Mary Brown dead body on the ground and the post-mortem examination report. So you would have to get somebody to say, Mary Brown is my sister or aunt or whatever, and I saw her dead body on the ground. I went to the post-mortem and I identified that body as Mary Brown. So sometimes there are those types of gaps, and we have to have the discussion even before the matter comes to court. Sometimes the police would be investigating. I remember the other day, that woman that stole the baby from like a hospital.
Yeah.
Called me and we were discussing it. I said, boy, Mr. Williams, we have certain leads, you know, and this is what I'm thinking. And we flesh it out. And he said, but why you don't try RGB, you know? Sooner or later, we have to register the baby and want birth certificate. So every new registration, you need to look in. That's one of the things that they did. So we do have that open dialogue. They're investigating something and an issue comes up and they're not quite sure, they'll call us. But certainly it's not like what you see on TV and prosecutors out there with police a kick off door and a run down people and arrest and all that. That we are lawyers that go in court and argue legal issues. Nothing else. We're not out there with no police that do any kind of work. We're not run down criminals. None of it. Don't get involved in the operations. We're simply attorneys that go to court and go argue law. That's all we do.
All right, that sounds like it's pretty straightforward. Shudi70 says, how do you deal with intimidation with witnesses?
Intimidation with witnesses, as in probably accused persons and their cronies intimidating witnesses.
All right, I'm gonna ask Shudi70 to go ahead and clarify because I'm not sure it didn't say.
I think that is what we're asking. So let me answer that in the interim, unless it's something else. So everybody knows this is Jamaica, and people are afraid because we do have high crime rates. And what we see on TV and the news and so forth, it can make us a little bit apprehensive, yes? Because everybody's concerned for the safety.
Right.
So more often than not, somebody will come and say, boy, I see it, you know, but I'm not giving any statement. Or I know or have information, but I don't want, if I give them, or if I give a statement, or if I come to give evidence, then somebody will come and kill me or kill my family. Suffice it to say, Jamaica has one of the witness protection programs that have never been compromised. As in, we do have a witness protection program. We can put you in witness protection. Clearly, I can't go into details, but you can housed elsewhere, and elsewhere is elsewhere. And that is a fact of it. You might have to root up and you're somebody else, or you're somewhere else, you know, for the fact of that. But there is a witness protection program. I always say to people, you know, sometimes you have to be brave. You have to be brave and do the right thing. I'm not going to tell anybody to ever compromise on their morals or their safety concerns, because they are real, but we have things that we can use to mitigate. You know, the police in Jamaica, I find them very professional for the most part, and you have some really good police officers out there, and they go above and beyond the call of duty. So I have to big up the JCF officers for that. They will provide transportation. Sometimes if you let us know, we are able to do that. You have persons who even live outside of Jamaica that probably had seen, or because of the crime, they move abroad. We can use video link, as I said before. We can fly them in, put them up, keep them secured until they're done with their evidence, and give them security straight back to where they came from. So that's one way to do it as well. But the witness protection program is the most readily thing that I find that comes to mind. They can't, even how you take the statement, sometimes you're able to take statements with a pseudonym. The police officers generally say pseudonym. So you give the statement in a name that is not yours. And the accused persons can have an idea of what the case will be against them until the date of trial. But closer to the trial, and only then is when we reveal the true name of the person. So the person will give two statements, one in a pseudonym or pseudonym and one in the actual name. So we only disclose the one in the false name first, and then probably a couple of days before the trial, you get the reveal of the real name. So that's one way we mitigate safety concerns apart from the witness protection program. As I said before, there can be live feed. When we review files, if we have 20 witnesses, we might look to see how efficiently we can prosecute the matter and only use 5 if it's possible. If it's enough to prove the case, don't want to expose that many persons, so we cut the numbers down as best as we can.
All right, I hope that was helpful with answering that question. The next one is from Andre Jason. The question is, what's the most fulfilling part of your job? I love this question. What's the most fulfilling part of your job?
Well, it's not the salary, because we get paid chicken feed. I like most of the attorneys, I'll tell you from now, the pay sucks. So it's not that. But I'd say, for me, it's the technical issues. But apart from that, it's really helping persons to find closure or taking bad persons off the street. Because I've always said, I don't believe that there are a lot of bad persons in Jamaica, you know. I believe that there are a lot of efficient bad persons in Jamaica. They're good at what they do. They're good at being bad. So, and when you look at it, a lot of the accused persons, they're multiple offenders. They will tell us enough W them make, or you hear, or there are several murders. What was that?
They'll brag about it.
Yeah, they do when you hear it, or you'd have several files concerning one person, you know, one person have 5 murder charges and gun offenses and stuff like that. So when you get somebody like that off the road, it's a good thing, and it's good for society, you know. You have, the most fulfilling part for me though is when you have persons that come and they say, look, you did good, or thank you. You know, nobody didn't believe me initially, or, you know, I am now able to sleep at nights and so forth. I've had persons, as a prosecutor, you have to be financial advisor, you have to take your own money, and probably somebody hungry, you have to say, all right, eat a food and whatnot. Even after the matter, you get feedback. It's a progression after the tragedy that's most significant for me. You see a witness a couple of years down the line, or they call you and update you and say, you know, I finally finished my degree, or I'm now able to sleep, or thank you for the closure this has brought. For me, I'm now able to bawl one last time and put it behind me, because I know that this person is paying for the crime and there's a God in heaven type of vibe. That's the most fulfilling part for me.
Awesome answer. All right, so I see 2 more questions. I'm going to quickly go through these just in case anybody else has, well, 3, just in case anybody else has any question that we can go through before the time is up on us. So this one says, have you ever used social media posts as part of your evidence?
Yes. It is possible to pull the information from social media, and there are ways to do it. I won't necessarily say evidence, because evidence is a matter of what is said in court, or what is legally allowed to be done in court. But say for instance, there is a principle called the Peter Blake principle. It's a case that says you can put anything in the hands of a witness when cross-examining them. So we had this, say for instance, you say you own a store and you have a IG page, and you're there in front of the store, and so you have a banner behind you saying that it's Shanice's beauty store, and you see curlers and hot girl hairstyle and everything on there. and in court you're saying you don't know anything about beauty supplies and you never own no store, nobody never did bit in your store and all, I'm cross-examining you and I go on your Instagram and pull and print those pictures and I will hand it to you and say, look at that picture before you. Are you still maintaining that you don't know anything about beauty? And probably in front of a jury too, the jury gonna say, yeah man, then no must have that hand tour and you look at it now and you probably said to yourself, right, well, catch me on this one. So those are ways that you could. A lot of persons generally post all sorts of stuff on Instagram and Facebook and all of these. So one of the things I do is to go on Instagram or Facebook and look at an accused or what he's doing or what she's doing, their lifestyle and whatnot, and it gives you a good idea of what is to come, who their associates are, if they're going to call witnesses, because unlike us prosecutors who have to disclose every single statement, they, in Jamaica, we don't know who they're going to call as witnesses. So we anticipate or we can look and get a good idea and so forth. So we do utilize that. We can look at, sometimes you find pictures of where the incident happens or where the persons live and so forth. So you get a good idea of the type of person that they are. So when you're cross-examining them, you have a more fulsome picture or understanding of the type of persons that are in front of you.
Okay. All right. So I can definitely see how that would be helpful. Zachary Chong asked, do you think enough is being done to train our police in preparing cases?
Training can never be enough. Yeah. That's the short and simple. But as I said before, everybody who sits at the table, they have an obligation to make the system better. Certainly from my side, the prosecution, we do a lot of police training. I personally, this weekend, I was doing police training from Friday morning till Sunday afternoon. 3 days worth of training for police officers. Other international entities, the US, the British, Integrity Commission, you name it, they have training for police officers and so forth, but they can never be enough because of the sheer numbers and you can only do so much and no more. But things are being done and we do it. I don't get paid. My colleagues don't get paid when we do them, but we're still a part of the same team. So we have to go and say, all right, these are our issues and this is what I'm doing. These are the issues I have where concerned statement taken. This is what we want to see. So we have that. And as I said before, we have a very good relationship with the police. We have in-house training. A lot of times we'll have meetings, we'll have debriefings, we meet with the investigating officers. So those are also training moments. And the JCF also train us in their procedures. We have to know about fingerprinting, ballistic testing, video ID parade, conventional ID parades and so forth. So we train each other and we learn from each other. But there's the issue of funding too. And certainly the curriculum could always be better.
Absolutely. All right. So there are a few more questions. I'm just going to touch this one, and then if we have time for that last one, we'll get back to it. So Kamir asks, for students interested in this career, what advice would you give them? Specific types of internships or clubs that they could be a part of in university?
I would say to be an attorney and to be very good as an attorney, you have to have discipline because most of what you do would largely owe to preparation. I am not somebody from the school of thought that believe that you have to do history and philosophy and all those boring kind of stuff. I didn't do any. I did CXC history, that was it. I didn't study any of those kind of things. As I said before, my path to here was strictly numbers and the sciences. And just do good at what you like and then go for it. So certainly I wouldn't say be slavish to a particular type of subject. I do not subscribe to that because law is a lot about critical thinking and your ability to prepare and to quickly on your feet. So I would say master your craft for whatever it is that you love. If you're doing the sciences, by all means, continue doing that. If you're doing business subjects and that's what you like, continue doing that. If you are doing the arts, literature, whatever it is, if you're doing drama and dancing, go and do that. I had a colleague that had a degree in chemistry that and I studied law after. I had a degree in econ, I studied law after. So it was certain.
So they do have to do law in university. So to be a prosecutor, you have to do law.
To be a prosecutor, you have to be a lawyer. So you have to have a law degree and then go to law school, which is a postgraduate school like Norman Manley. You have a couple others over the world. You have Hodine Law School. And there will be others in the future, but certainly you have to get a certificate of legal education after, which is a 2-year course. After doing a degree in law, you have to go and study a further 2 years for that. But the requirements now, they have changed. Certainly you don't need to do history and philosophy and all of that. I would say just concentrate on doing well and getting good grades, because I believe it's still competitive to get in law school. So just master your craft. And then after, you have several niches that you could go into. So if you studied music or sport, there's sport law, there's entertainment law, and you having a firm background in it is good. If you're doing the sciences, you could work for an entity, be legal counsel for an entity, for a hospital, I don't know. Whatever it is, there is a niche that you could fall into, and no knowledge is ever wasted, because I've had to, at work, I'm in the financial crimes and cyber crimes unit, and I'd studied that in the past, so it actually helps. No, I have a better understanding. I can ask more pointed questions. I remember my colleague was doing a matter, and the person was saying that because of where they were sailing, they got drifted, and that is how they ended up in Haiti. So I said, no, from that location, you'd end up somewhere else if there was a storm. And I was able to call a friend of mine that is in the Army, in the Coast Guard, and they were able to say, it's a virtual impossibility if you launch from that point and end up in Haiti, you'd be somewhere else. And just because of my experience going fishing and really looking into other areas and learning geography and all of that, that's why it was curious to me. But if I didn't have that training, then that wouldn't have been a point I could raise to call a witness to speak to the fact that it would be a virtual impossibility if you left from there to drift and end up in Haiti. And they got a successful conviction from that. So just do good at whatever it is that you like, and then you launch forward.
Wow. All right. So I have 2 more questions. We have about 3 minutes. All right. So I'm going to ask you quickly, and you just quickly explain it or answer so that we can go to the next one. So this one says, how does the court handle situations where members of parliament have committed an offense?
Why? Political question. I speak for the court, but generally, as with everybody, our laws are person neutral. If somebody commits a crime, I don't think it matters race, creed, and whatnot. Certainly on our part, if somebody commits a crime, it doesn't matter who you are, we're going to indict for it and we're going to prosecute you. So if we have enough evidence that, and on the face of it, you have committed a crime, then we will indict for it and we put it before the court. As I said, we're dispassionate, so it doesn't matter who you are. So I have no political biases, no person biases, regardless of race, sex, creed, religion, none of that, or office or status. So once you have committed a crime and we have enough to put the matter before the court, we are going to do it.
All right, so it's all about getting justice. It doesn't matter who you are. Love that. All right, so the next one is, how do you it was basically talking about the difference between a snitch and a person who's trying to protect their community. Like, can you speak to the difference?
A snitch and a don, or somebody who is not? All right, I can't.
A snitch and somebody who's reporting an issue because they're concerned for their community.
Well, a snitch is something, is a term that criminals would use to make it sound something untoward or bad. I believe that certainly if I see a crime, I'm going to report it to the police. So if you want to call me a snitch, that's it. If persons do stuff, I say, don't tell me, because if you tell me, I'm going to report you. And that's how I see it. So I don't care if you want to call me a snitch. It's the proper thing to do. It's a patriotic thing to do. It's the right thing to do. So I don't support criminal activities in any way, shape, or form. So if somebody sees a crime, especially if it's a heinous or really terrible crime, then you should report it. Because you know what? I always say to people, it might be on your doorstep one day, and you'd want somebody to be there as a witness. You'd want somebody to report it. We are all human beings in this world and in this country, and crime, it doesn't wear blinkers, and it can, rightly, God forbid, land on your doorstep one day. It can affect somebody who you love, or your friends, or even you. So you have to pay it forward, and it's the right thing to do. And until we stop this culture of being snitches or this terrible inherent fear that's unreasoned, we will continue to be in the position that we are in, with the crime, with the numbers of crime and the rates going up as they are, because we are of this culture of everybody should keep their mouth shut and inform of a dead type of behavior. And until we lose that, we're not going to have any significant.
All right, Kamir says time. It's definitely gonna cut us off. But thank you so much for your time and sharing so much wisdom with us. It's gonna cut us off any minute now. Anyway, go to the mindsof.com to connect with Hodine Williams or Prosecutor Mind, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Very good people.